president for a couple of reasons. One, because I think the president, unfortunately, in some ways, is sort of tasked with this job. And two, because it actually makes a difference to the future of conservatism. And that is the job of conveying ideas. Now, I think a lot of conservatives, people like you, people like me, who see him as a vessel for policy, we're very happy with him as a vessel for policy, generally speaking. The idea that he is promoting conservative ideas, I will say on the mild end, I have been disappointed with that, especially because the guy does have a unique capacity to draw cameras. I mean, the ability to draw a spotlight for him is unbelievable, and yet the sort of material that he puts out into the public view is rarely conservative. Very often it's alienating for a lot of folks, and my great fear is that we will get a lot of good policy, and then he will have alienated so many people, particularly people who are of my generation and younger, that we're going to be in the wilderness for a while.
This is an interesting point you raise. I don't think Donald Trump is a philosophical conservative. I think he's come to his conservatism as a matter of practicality and in some ways principle. I don't think he's any more a principled or philosophical conservative than George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush. I think there've really been two in the last little over a century. That would be Coolidge and Reagan. But other than that, I can't think of any, just off the top of my head. Not Nixon, not Ford, not Eisenhower, certainly not Theodore Roosevelt and Harding and so forth. So I don't really hold that against him. In terms of him promoting that kind of an agenda from a philosophical point of view. But I think it's kind of not our job, but our responsibility to try and explain that to a lot of people, what these policies are, our philosophy, and so forth. I even think a lot of so-called conservative websites and magazines have lost their way. They're fighting with each other over what conservatism means, or they've abandoned it in some ways because they hate Trump or they love Trump, or whatever the situation is. I feel right now the intellectual conservative movement is very weak. I really do. I think you and I and others try to present that case, but from a broad-based perspective, it's quite weak. And I think that's a problem because some people are abandoning it. I'm not sure why 100%. I'm very troubled by some who've talked about conservatism all these years and then all of a sudden say, well, what has it ever done for us? And I said, let me tell you what it's done for you. 9 o'clock tonight, I want you to go into one of these supermarkets. Where I live, they have a place called Wegmans. I don't know if they have them in California. It's as big as a football field. And I want you to walk down every aisle. 10 different types of toothpaste. You can get battery-operated toothbrushes or handheld, soft, medium, hard. Then I want you to go to the meat section. And I want to see how many types of meat. The chicken section. Go to the wine section. Wine from all over the world. Just look. Stop telling me conservatism doesn't work and capitalism doesn't work. We have more material things in this country than any king or queen had 200 years ago. We get on an airplane, we fly across the country. That's not socialism, that's not big government. Those are airplanes. That's technology, that's creativity. And we complain whether they have peanuts or pretzels on the plane or whether we're sitting on the tarmac for an extra half hour, right? We need to put things in perspective. The things we have in this country, almost no other country has. Certainly 2/3 of the world doesn't have. Why do you think millions of people are trying to claw their way into this country? Because it's why? Because the middle class is under attack, because we have systemic racism, because we're not socialist enough? No. It's because of all the other reasons. And so part of it is the responsibility of the individual citizen. Honestly, I don't look to the President of the United States or a senator or a politician of any kind to tell me, this is what you need to think. One of the things that we need to continue to teach people is think for yourselves. That's a good thing. Learn for you. Most of the stuff I've learned about the Constitution, I sure as hell didn't learn it in public school. I've learned it since I've been in school. And that's a good thing. The learning process goes on and on and on. But not again. The first chapter, Liberty and Tyranny, I say one of the reasons why we don't really appreciate liberty is because we're surrounded by it. And one of the reasons we don't appreciate what we have is because we're surrounded by it. And so we get caught up in really stupid arguments, stupid things. I'll give you an example. Last weekend, the whole debate on cable TV was over the word nasty. When the president said nasty, referring to comments that the princess made, I've got 3 days of this stuff? Is this a joke? Did he mean she's nasty? Did he mean the stuff that she said was nasty? And I'm thinking, media is nuts, or they are nuts. Our focus is so off. And then we had D-Day, the anniversary, the 75th anniversary the other day. And I play these old clips from World War II, and you really, your patriotism is just through the roof, and you see how tremendous this country is and the sacrifices people have made for this country. So I think it's really on each one of us, more than a president, to really explain liberty and conservatism and constitutionalism. And this president doesn't do that anyway. Most presidents don't do that. Like I said, I can think of 2 who basically did. But I will say this strongly in support of the president. He doesn't preach the other, too. How rotten America is, you know, how racist America is, the wage gaps in America. I mean, people can't get health care in America. So he's not one of them. And so at his core, I know he loves this country.
I do